The ride-sharing company Uber just publicly declared that all men are violent predatorial threats and unveiled a new feature that is extremely discriminatory and most likely illegal that effectively bans all male drivers from earning money as an Uber driver. I have never seen such a shameless and open act of discrimination before. At least when universities were discriminating based on race, they were trying to pretend like they weren't. However, Uber is being unapologetically straightforward with their intentions to discriminate against men. And this is happening while a new app called the T app is going viral across social media. This is a woman-only app where you have to verify with an ID and a picture that you're actually a woman to be able to use it, and allows women in whatever city to post a picture of the man that they're dating or interested in dating and receive public crowdsourced gossip about this person, which has led to the slander and defamation and reputational damage of thousands of men from scorned ex-girlfriends or people who don't even know them in just the short time that this app has been out. What really shocked me when I was doing research for this video is just how prevalent the identity politics cultural rot perpetuated by the Biden administration still is in American society, and how it is still tearing us apart as a country. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's hear about this new feature from Uber, and afterwards we'll take a look at the responses online to really illustrate just how prevalent this male-hating sentiment is and how it led Uber to implementing this new feature.
We have a GMA exclusive now. Uber announcing a new feature that connects women riders with women drivers. Becky Worley is here. You got those details for us? Good morning.
I do. Good morning, Robin. Today, Uber announcing a pilot program called Women Preferences, where women riders can choose to have a female driver. Also, female Uber drivers can set a preference for booking women riders. It'll debut in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Detroit in a few weeks. And if successful, they hope to expand this nationwide. Now, Uber has faced scrutiny in the past over safety for women riders and drivers, and the company says the Women Preferences pilot is something that's come directly from user feedback. Women want more of a sense of safety from the app. So here's how it works. For riders, they can request a female driver on demand, but it's only about 1 in 5 Uber drivers nationwide that are female, so it's not guaranteed. Or you might have to wait a longer time if you want that option. Another way to do this, riders can reserve in advance. That gives more probability that the female driver request can be honored. Or the third way is to set a preference for women drivers, which increases your chances of being matched with one but doesn't guarantee it. For drivers, they simply toggle on an option to be matched with a woman. And in case you were wondering, men cannot opt in to choose women drivers.
Now, before we dive deep into this policy and discuss some of the reactions online, can I just point out the giant, glaring, hypocritical elephant in the room? Liberals will say men are so violent, men are so dangerous, they would rather be stranded in the woods with a bear. Liberals believe men are so dangerous, they want to explicitly be able to request women drivers to feel safe. But those same liberals will champion and pedestalize the most violent, unstable, deranged, and perverted men of all, the ones who are pretending to be women. And they will gladly welcome them into their locker rooms, into their showers, into their bathrooms, into their most intimate and private spaces where they're by far the most vulnerable. And it's because the Democrat obsession with cultural Marxism, with identity politics, forces them to discard all rationality, all common sense, and just subscribe to the philosophy that everybody exists on a spectrum of oppressed and oppressor. And what determines where you fall on that spectrum are 3 factors: your gender, your race, and your sexuality. If you're Hispanic, you're a victim. But if you're also a Hispanic man, now you might be an oppressor. But if you're a gay Hispanic man, then you move back down into the oppressed category. Maybe not as oppressed as someone who checks off more oppressed boxes, like a lesbian black woman, but you're not as bad as a straight white male. And at the very bottom of the victim hierarchy is the transgenders. So a white male who would otherwise fall at the very end of the oppressor category can now declare he's a woman and fall to the very bottom of the oppressed category, and thus garner sympathy and acceptance by liberal women in droves. And obviously, the most predatorial of men take advantage of that delusion. And most women even know this. They're just not allowed to acknowledge it because you're forced to toe the Democrat Party line. And it's appalling how under the Biden administration, acceptance of blatant discrimination was acceptable, if not encouraged, against people in the oppressor category, but was the gravest sin you could commit if they were in the oppressed category. Just imagine the outrage if Uber allowed you to filter out black drivers. And it's evident because they didn't also give men the ability to filter out women drivers and only select male drivers. Because according to Uber, which has clearly adopted the radical cultural identity philosophy, women are allowed to discriminate against men because they're violent, predatory oppressors. But if men only wanted to ride with male drivers because we happen to believe women can't drive and they're a threat to us that way, maybe not physically, that would be considered misogyny, perpetuating the patriarchy. Now, the reason this is going to affect men so harshly is because 80% of Uber drivers are men. And I would like to think the usage of Uber riders is probably 50-50 women and men. So now 80% of their drivers are excluded from access to 50% of their user base because half the women riders have been advocating for this policy and are going to be eager to use it. And then the other half of women who hadn't even thought about this are going to see the option available and assume that as kind of a caution warning by Uber that, hey, our male drivers are pretty predatory, so we're giving you the option to choose a woman. And they're going to choose it because they think that's Uber implying that male drivers aren't safe. So all male drivers will have are other male riders. But because male riders can't exclude female drivers, that pool of customers is going to get split up. And now because 80% of the app is requesting to use 20% of the drivers, supply and demand dictates that the price of an Uber will skyrocket. And the beneficiaries of that increased price are exclusively going to be women. And that's going to cause more men to stop being Uber drivers and more women to become Uber drivers until it gets to a point where all Uber drivers are just women.